It's no coincidence that Batman has the most complex, intense, and human villains in all of fiction, because he doesn't just face criminals, he faces mirrors. Every villain that walks into Gotham carries a piece of what Bruce Wayne is trying to hide, a trauma, an obsession, a weakness. They didn't appear by chance. They were born from the same darkness that created the Dark Knight. And maybe that's why these confrontations grip us so deeply. Because deep down, what we're watching isn't just hero versus villain, it's man versus fate. Reason versus madness, order versus chaos. A battle fought not only with fists, but with ideas, wounds, and silence. And here's a truth no one likes to admit, not even you. At some point in your life, you've been all of them. You've craved control like the Riddler. You've felt rage like Two-Face. You've worn masks like Scarecrow. You've hidden from pain like Mr. Freeze. These villains hit hard because they live where you avoid looking, deep inside, where the monsters whisper. In this video, you won't just meet Batman's 10 greatest villains. You'll walk through the darkest alleys of the human mind. You'll understand why each of them didn't just challenge the Bat, they helped shape him. Because if Bruce Wayne exists to save Gotham, these villains exist to test him, to constantly remind him that being a hero isn't about defeating evil, it's about not becoming it. 10. Hugo Strange. Before the Joker ever became Gotham's worst nightmare, Hugo Strange already knew Batman's biggest secret, his identity. A brilliant psychiatrist obsessed with the criminal mind. Strange isn't like other enemies. He doesn't just want to defeat Batman, he wants to be him. His obsession with the Dark Knight goes beyond psychopathy. It's a twisted need to understand and absorb everything Bruce represents. By diving into Wayne's psyche, Strange exposes the emotional cracks in the hero's armor, shining a light on his deepest insecurities, traumas, and obsessions. When Batman faces Hugo, it's not fists he's fighting. It's his own sanity. Through Strange, Bruce is forced to walk the thin line between control and madness. He drags him back to his childhood trauma, revealing that the suit might be a mask. But the real face of Batman could very well be the pain he never overcame. This villain doesn't attack with weapons, he strikes with brutal truths, and each one leaves an invisible scar. 9. Poison Ivy. Pamela Isley wasn't born a villain. She was shaped by a world that rejects the beauty it can't control. A brilliant scientist deeply in love with the natural world and betrayed by those who were supposed to protect her, Ivy is reborn as a force of nature, both literally and metaphorically. She doesn't want to destroy humanity. She wants to rebalance a world that chokes the planet in the name of profit. Her poison isn't just in her kiss, it's in her radical vision of ecological justice. Above all, Ivy is a wounded goddess, ready to burn it all down to save what green remains. To Batman, Poison Ivy is a moral dilemma. She isn't driven by chaos, but by an undeniable logic. Who's really wrong? Those who ravage the planet, or those who fight back? More than once, Bruce hesitates. He sees in Pamela someone who could have been a hero, if not for the rage that reshaped her. Their clashes are never just physical, they're ideological. And every time they meet, Batman is forced to question where the line really lies, between law and justice, between protecting his city and protecting the world. 8. Mr. Freeze. Victor Fries isn't a monster. He's a man broken by a love he couldn't save. A brilliant scientist, his tragedy begins when his wife, Nora, falls gravely ill. In a desperate attempt to keep her alive through cryogenic preservation, an accident transforms his body, trapping him in a state of absolute cold. Since then, what drives him isn't greed or a lust for power. It's a desperate hope to save the one person he's ever truly loved. Mr. Freeze is Batman's most tragic villain, a man who froze his own heart to stop feeling pain, but deep down, never stopped loving. To Bruce, Victor is a mirror of his own trauma. Both men lost the people they loved and now walk a constant tightrope over the abyss. But where Batman channels his pain into justice, Freeze lets it consume him. In every encounter, Bruce sees what he could have become if he had given in to despair. Victor's icy armor doesn't just hide his condition, it hides the humanity he's trying so hard not to lose. 7. Scarecrow. Jonathan Crane was a scrawny, isolated kid, constantly bullied and humiliated. Where others ran from fear, he became obsessed with it. He devoted his life to studying the human mind, not to heal it, but to manipulate its most fragile emotions. As the Scarecrow, he creates toxins that turn thoughts into living nightmares. But fear itself is his true obsession. He doesn't just want to scare people, he wants the world to feel what he's felt his entire life. To Batman, Scarecrow is a particularly dangerous foe. He doesn't attack the body, he attacks the soul. With his fear toxin, Jonathan tears down every mental defense, forcing Bruce to relive wounds that never healed. The alley, the blood, the scream, every clash with the Scarecrow is a descent into psychological hell. But it's also in those moments that Batman proves his strength, his control, his discipline, his ability to walk through the fire and come out stronger. Crane represents Bruce's inner war, the fear of failure, of losing control, of becoming the very monster he fights against. And by facing him, Batman faces himself, his limits, his darkness, his secrets. 6. The Riddler. Edward Nygma isn't driven by hate or bloodlust, he's driven by logic. But behind all his mental games lies a desperate need for validation. The Riddler doesn't just want to prove he's smart, he needs to prove he's smarter than everyone, especially Batman. His crimes are constructed like deadly puzzles, where the victims are just props. The real target is always the ego. Yes, Nygma challenges Gotham, but his true adversary has always been the Dark Knight. What makes the Riddler dangerous isn't his strength, it's his pride. With every riddle, he leaves clues that could lead to his downfall, but only because he's convinced no one will ever solve them. For him, losing is unthinkable. That's why his clashes with Batman are so intense. They're mental duels, battles of wit, where the price of a mistake is a human life. The Riddler doesn't kill for pleasure. He kills because he can't stand being ignored. To Bruce, Edward Nygma is a grim reminder that genius without empathy is destructive. He represents what Batman fears he could become. Someone who lives so deep in logic, he forgets the soul. And that's why, even when Bruce wins the game, he walks away from each encounter with the Riddler more emotionally drained than physically hurt. 5. Bane. Bane is not just brute force. He's the fusion of a brilliant mind and a monstrous body forged through suffering. Raised inside a prison from birth, he learned to survive among murderers and torturers, where every night could be his last. Over time, he became a master of strategy, discipline, and pain. And when the drug venom entered his veins, it turned him into something beyond human. But what truly makes Bane one of Batman's greatest villains is his obsession with destroying the symbol, not just the man. Bane studied Batman's every move. He waited for the perfect moment, released Arkham's worst criminals, and forced Bruce to wear himself out physically and emotionally. And then, he struck. He didn't just defeat Batman, he broke him, literally and symbolically. The image of Bane lifting Batman and snapping him in half is more than violence. It's the moment a hero is reduced to rubble. But what Bane never understood is that Batman isn't defined by strength, he's defined by his will to rise. This villain didn't just challenge Bruce's body, he reshaped his mindset. After Bane, Batman learned his limits. He learned to trust, to delegate, to train successors. In other words, Bane broke him, but also forced him to rebuild stronger than before. 4. Catwoman. Selina Kyle never needed superpowers to own the night. Her greatest weapon has always been instinct. Raised on the streets, surrounded by abuse, abandonment, and survival, she learned early that the world doesn't protect the weak, so she swore she'd never be one. As Catwoman, she's agile, unpredictable, and magnetic. But unlike Gotham's other criminals, Selina never wanted to destroy the city. She just refuses to play by the rules of a system that always discarded her. Deep down, her rebellion is a form of freedom, and maybe even justice. To Batman, Selina is a paradox, the woman who breaks his code yet makes him question everything he stands for. She enters his life as an adversary but quickly becomes something more, someone who tears down the emotional walls he spent a lifetime building. Catwoman represents what Bruce fears most, feeling desire, connection, vulnerability, and because of that, she shapes him in a way no one else does. Selina forces him to confront the man behind the mask, the heart behind the symbol. They fight, they kiss, they betray, but they always return to each other. Because of all the bonds Batman has ever had, Selina was the only one who truly saw him and loved him anyway. In a world of absolutes, she is the gray area, the reminder that not all that's right is just, and not all that's wrong is cruel. 3. Two-Face. Harvey Dent was once the symbol of Gotham's hope. A relentless district attorney brave enough to stare down the underworld side by side with Batman and Commissioner Gordon, he represented a real chance to change the city through lawful means. But it all collapsed the day an acid attack scarred half his face and half his soul. What was born in that tragedy was Two-Face, a man torn between light and darkness, good and evil, guided only by the flip of a coin. For Bruce, Harvey's fall was more than painful. It was personal. He believed in Dent, saw in him the man who could do what Batman never could, heal Gotham without violence. When Harvey gave in to madness, Batman realized that willpower isn't always enough. Sometimes even the best men break, and in that collapse he saw his own reflection, the risk of losing control, of giving in to pain, of crossing the line. Two-Face is the embodiment of moral conflict. He judges, punishes, and absolves based on chance. He is the opposite of Batman, who clings to his moral code like a lifeline. And that's why their encounters are so intense. Because deep down, Two-Face screams out Bruce's greatest fear, that maybe everything is random, that good and evil are just two sides of a coin, spinning in the dark. 2. Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul doesn't want to rule Gotham, he wants to save it by destroying it. His name means the demon's head, but he sees himself as a prophet, a restorer of natural balance. Centuries of life granted by the Lazarus Pit have made him more than a man. They've made him an idea. Ra's sees civilization as a sickness and believes that only by wiping out modern chaos can humanity be reborn. He isn't insane, he's cold, calculating, and terrifyingly convincing. That's why his conflict with Batman runs so deep. Ra's al Ghul doesn't just want to defeat him, he wants Bruce to replace him. He sees in the Dark Knight the same discipline, the same focus, the same pain, but still bound to fragile ideals. To Ra's, Batman is flawed, a man trying to fix the world piece by piece when he could burn it down and build anew. And that vision, as brutal as it is, has a kind of logic. Ra's is a villain who doesn't destroy with bombs, he destroys with seductive ideas. His impact on Bruce goes far beyond the battlefield. He forces Batman to justify his values even when logic seems to fail them. Ra's al Ghul represents the ultimate dilemma, justice or total sacrifice. And in the end, it's through facing Ra's that Bruce fully understands this. Being a hero isn't about saving the world, it's about choosing not to become a god, even when you have the power to be one. 1. The Joker. He doesn't want money, or power, or redemption. The Joker wants one thing only, to prove that the world is a joke, and that deep down everyone is just a mask waiting to fall. The Clown Prince of Crime is Batman's worst nightmare because he has no limits. He isn't driven by ambition or revenge, but by the thrill of watching the world burn. His crimes aren't random. They're choreographed like acts in a theater of the absurd, with him as the maestro of madness. The most terrifying part? He doesn't want to kill Batman. He wants to break him. The Joker is the one villain who, time and time again, makes Bruce doubt himself. In every encounter, he throws questions that eat away at the soul. Why do you keep going? What have you really saved? What if we're the same? The Joker's impact isn't on Bruce's body, it's on his soul. He didn't just kill Jason Todd, he blew him up laughing. He didn't just paralyze Barbara Gordon, he turned her pain into a twisted joke. Every scar left by the Joker doesn't bleed, it echoes. To Batman, the Joker is temptation, the chance to cross the line. That moment when one more punch could silence the chaos forever, but at the cost of his own soul. And the most tragic part is, the Joker knows this. He doesn't want to win. He wants Batman to lose to himself, because the moment the Dark Knight kills, he stops being different, and in that moment, the Joker wins. In the end, maybe the question was never, who is Batman? But rather, who are you when the darkness comes?